Hi, Professor Garrison. It's Chad McCoy here today to present my business case on drones and real estate photography. Let's get going, and hopefully technology will be on my side today. Okay, so we're going to cover today the executive summary, the problem statement analysis, the recommended solution, get into the financial overview of starting this business, the implementation piece of timeline on that, and finally concluding the presentation today. Okay, let's jump into the executive summary. Hopefully. Okay. And when we did some research on the drone photography business, we found immediately that the market currently is at over $1 billion, and the growth potential in this industry is $3 billion by the year 2026. Also found that real estate companies are using drones in their work already, and that has provided increased listings and which equates to increased sales. The ability to use drones does help the value of a property and is a way that a real estate company and a realtor can be more competitive in the market. And as the real estate market is very competitive and probably will continue to be competitive, if they can get an advantage over others to sell that property quickly and efficiently, they're gonna go with that. Okay, let's move forward. Looking at the problem and the analysis of the problem. I mentioned innovative ways to increase efficiency in sales, and any company, including real estate companies, are going to look for that. That is one of their goals. And when you look at the past, there was traditional photos that were always taken, standing photos on the ground that were limited. Now with aerial photography with drones, they can get a whole different perspective of the property, which could increase the value that they could get when they sell it, as well as show the client the potential of where it's actually at, what's surrounding it, where exactly if a park's nearby, restaurants, so it gives a better understanding of the property. When looking at the alternatives in the problem, they could be their own drone pilot. They could say, I don't want to hire a photography business to do this. I can do it myself. So that was one alternative. But at the same time, it could be a costly one and a lot of work. And they might not be doing the right thing as a realtor and a drone pilot together. And finally, Google Maps was found as another cost-effective way for real estate companies to use aerial photography by just Googling the property and using the satellite view. Not the best scenario in my opinion, but it is an alternative. Okay, next slide. So when we get to the recommended solution, definitely real estate companies need to hire a drone photography business. It's going to, again, increase their sales and increase the number of listings, which is their primary goals. It is a quick and cost-effective solution by hiring a professional drone pilot. They can use drone pilot networks to make sure they're getting somebody that is going to provide them a great product, the great aerial views that they want. And just a couple drone pilot networks are listed here on the screen. Sold by Air and Flyworks are two. There are others, but I found those two pretty prominent. And finally, companies already get this. They already understand the return on investment. Big real estate companies already use. There was too many to list, but Remax, Keller Williams, and Coldwell Banker are all ones that use the drone photography currently. Oops, okay. And getting into the financials, I found that the average startup cost to start a drone business is estimated at $20,000. This is a variable figure, though. You could see it lower, you could see it higher. There's a lot that goes into that, depending on how you start the business. One of those variables is location. If you want to set up a brick and mortar office to do your drone business, that's going to be a little more costly than if you start up and just work from your home. Business formation costs are included. That can include setting up your LLC. Uh, that can include your legal fees if you have to have a lawyer look at over everything that you're doing, and that can be licensing fees, a variety of formation, and insurance is very important in the formation of the business. You want to make sure you're covered if your drone does damage. There's liability in that, and actually, damage to help replace your drone if it's in an accident. Software is another piece in the financials that can't be overlooked. There's a variety of different software programs you may need. You'll need a good video editing software to put together the photos. You'll need a CRM, customer relationship management program, to keep track of those customers and make sure you have good information on every customer. You could need accounting software if you're planning to do your own accounting. You could need social media management software. So a variety of costs go into that. Advertising and marketing, again, you cannot forget the costs involved with that. That can be your business cards, that can be signage for the business, that can be your website, which is very important. That could be a business email program that you have to incorporate. It can be press, local press, print ads, social media campaigns. So all that has to be considered. Also, drone equipment. We don't want to forget that. You need to buy the right drone to take the photos for the real estate company or the realtor. There are a variety of drones out there, but you want to make sure it has the right type of camera, that can get those shots that you need, and that it is easily accessible. You don't need some huge drone to do this work, but you need something that is going to withstand wind well, have a good battery life, make sure it does have, the ability of maybe changing payloads over time, to make sure you could switch out cameras if you need to, or add cameras. So those type of things. FAA Part 107, you have to have your remote pilot license to do commercial work. So this is very important, and there is a cost involved. You can take training, which is a cost. You can then sit for the test and get that remote pilot license. And then we get into what you're going to charge the customer. There's service pricing to be considered. The research I did, I found a couple different scenarios in this. One was value-based pricing. So to give an example there, if you have a client with a large budget, they would be getting larger amounts of products. So a broader display of pictures and things like that. If they have a lower budget, they're just going to get a lower amount of work that you're doing. The second piece of pricing that I found is you could actually run the math, do the math, run the numbers of what your expenses are going into it for the year, what what you want in revenue for the year, and then look at how many hours you could potentially bill for the year. You take the expense number, you take the revenue goal, add those two together, divide it by the billable hours that you plan to do for the year, and that can get you what you can charge per hour. So that was another method I found interesting. Okay, on to the next. Now, getting into implementation of the business, the research I did, it found that the estimated total to start up this business is just 9 months. So within a year's time, you could be running a drone photography business. Within the first couple months, this is really your planning phase. You need to understand the market. You need to create that business plan. That's going to set up the roadmap to success for your business, and get into the risks and the threats and like the SWOT analysis to understand what are you going in, what are your strengths, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that's good and you have all that when you set up your business plan. Then you get into the business formation piece, which is creating the type of business, if it's an LLC, sole proprietorship, S Corp, that sort of thing. Then adequate capital. This is important in the beginning because you need to understand you got to have the money to get this business off the ground. And a lot of people forget that. And so you don't want to get into month 6 or 7 and realize you're out of money. So having that adequate capital is important. Then you move into months 3 through 5. This is where you start really getting ready. You acquire the equipment, you buy the drone or drones, the batteries that you need, the video equipment, the video editing software, all of that to get your business up and running. And don't forget the FAA Part 107 certification. This is a must, and you can't forget to do that. Oops. Okay, next slide. And then we get into months 6 and 7. This was an interesting approach when I read some of the research. One way is to offer free services. It helps build your portfolio. There were a couple case studies that I found that those individuals who did offer a free service initially gained those customers for life. And it's a way to really understand what the customer wants, really how to differentiate from what they may have had previously. So that was one approach. The other free service approach was um, a person who was already in the photography business, but then wanted to add drone photography. They actually would go to realtors that their listings had not sold, that did not incorporate drone photography. And that allowed them to say, hey, you haven't sold this property. Let me give you some drone photos of the property and then see if that turns the sale around. They found that worked. And then you had a customer then for life because they're like, wow, that really made a difference in making that sale. The next piece is networking. This is the time when you got to drum up the business. You know, if you know realtors, you know people who know realtors, you have to get involved and really start to network to get the word out that you are starting this business. The unique selling proposition, I read about this. This is interesting. If you can come up with a unique selling proposition, also known as USP, this is a great way to really drive it into your business that sets you apart from the competition. So if there's something that you can do differently to gain market, then do it and you stick with it and you put it into every piece of the business. Getting into the final months of implementation, that's where you have to have that marketing and branding strategy. And if you have that USP, you put that into every aspect of marketing and branding. This is where you gain the new customers. You don't want to forget to analyze the results and feedback from those customers. It's very important because you don't want to get a customer and lose them initially. You want to keep them and retain and then grow the organization. So retention and growth optimization is listed there as well. You just need to make sure that you continue to keep growing because you don't want to go backwards on a brand new business. Okay. And finally, conclusion. We've made it to the end. We are ready to get this business off the ground, and we've seen why. The increasing market size. The market is continuing to grow, pushing $3 billion or over $3 billion by 2026. Drone technology is always evolving, better cameras, different payloads. You can even extend your drone photography business into other aspects. I've seen that a lot in the research. You start off with real estate photography, and then you can add on different services. An interesting statistic, over 80% of home sellers prefer a realtor using drone photography. Wow, that's a big number. And that number will probably only increase because people want their homes to sell the quickest. And so does the realtor. They want to get the highest priced and get that home sold and move on to the next listing. As we've seen, manageable startup costs with strong revenue potential. It's less than a year to get the business off the ground and start making money. And it's a viable business opportunity. Everything points that this business can be sustainable and that you can grow it into different aspects, not just drone photography. That concludes the presentation, and I got to leave you here with one final beautiful aerial shot of my dream home after my drone photography business takes off. And there we are, living happily on some water with some palm trees. Looks like a beautiful place. And the last here is all sources were cited throughout the presentation today, and the sources cited includes all of them as well for you. Thank you for your time, Professor Garrison. I hope you have a great day.